Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasarupine Avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namah. So today's topic, as I think you know, is transcending matter, and we will discuss the initial steps regarding that. So I will start with a quotation of Swami Vivekananda. He says, Vedanta can become our religion only if we can clearly understand it. If we become real men and women, not people with vague ideas and superstitions in our brains. And if you want to be truly spiritual, since Vedanta is concerned only with spirituality. This is what Swami Vivekananda says, that we have to have a clear idea of what Vedanta is, what religion is all about. Otherwise, we cannot proceed far in this path. So, as we have now got a fairly good idea of the Sankhya philosophy, we are familiar with the nature of matter and spirit. As we have seen, Sankhya admits of two ultimate realities, that is the Prakriti and Purusha, and these are but two names for matter and spirit. So, from matter comes the word material, and from the word spirit comes the word spiritual. Spirit has different connotations also, the word spirit, so I would prefer to use the word Atman or the soul. So first, let's see what material means. Material comes from matter. So according to the dictionary, materialism is a tendency to consider material possessions and physical comforts as more important than spiritual values. And in philosophy, materialism is a doctrine that nothing exists except matter and its movements and modifications. So from this it is clear that the materialists are those who think that there is nothing beyond matter, and they give all their lives are centered upon matter and what they can get out of material things. And the opposite of this is spirituality, which says that matter should be given only as much importance as is absolutely necessary. And our goal of life is not to make the matter the be all and end all, but use matter to transcend matter. Use the world to transcend the world. That is the only use of the world or the universe. So these are the two viewpoints, and now we will just see step by step. First, we will just examine matter. See, what is this universe? This universe is nothing but matter. All that we can see, all that we can think about, all that we can imagine is simply matter. Swami Vivekananda says, the whole universe is simply an ocean of matter, of which you and I are like little whirlpools. Masses of matter are coming into each whirlpool, taking the whirlpool form and coming out as matter again. The matter that is in my body may have been in yours a few years ago, or in the sun, or may have been the matter in a plant and so on, in a continuous state of flux. So this whole universe is simply an ocean of matter. We think that if two things exist, there is a gap between them, but this gap in the universe is also filled with matter. So the whole thing is matter, and this is continuously changing. My body, your body, all these are nothing but whirlpools of matter. And matter by its very nature is limited. Because everything must be limited that comes through the senses or through the mind or through the intellect. And the goal of religions is to go beyond all limitations. So, till we remain bound by matter, we will be limited beings. Limited beings subject to the laws of matter. So, our goal is to become free. Freedom is the goal of the whole of the, not only mankind, but all the living beings in the universe. And religion helps us, shows us the path to freedom. Therefore, we can say that all religions, as Swami Vivekananda says, all religions are more or less attempts to get beyond nature. Nature here is another name for matter. The crudest or the most developed expressed through mythology or symbology, stories of gods, angels or demons, or through stories of saints or seers, great men or prophets, or through the abstractions of philosophy. All have that one object. All are trying to get beyond these limitations. So this is the situation. That on one side is matter, and on the other side is the Atman or soul. Now the question comes, okay, matter is on one side, Atman is on another side. So what is the problem? Let the two be. From where does the problem arise? The problem arises because the Atman has got mixed up somehow in this world of matter. That is the problem. The Atman has got caught. It is somehow tied down to matter. So in Vedanta, this spirit, the Atman and the matter becoming bound with each other is called Chit Jad Granthi. Chit means consciousness, the Atman. And Jada means all that is insentient, means all that is matter. So this Granthi means a knot. Now the problem is the Atman has tied itself into a knot, so to say, with matter. And now it finds that it cannot free itself. That is the whole problem. Knot is, we tie two things together with a knot. So Atman is as if it is tied to matter through a knot which although completely unreal, which is impossible. Actually, this can never be. Logically, the spirit can never be bound, Atman can never be bound. But this is Maya, that it makes the impossible possible. Ghatana patiyasi, that which cannot happen, that also has become possible through the inscrutable power of Maya. So our goal is to untie this knot. When we untie this knot, the Atman will be free again. So to untying this knot means transcending matter. That is the goal of religion, that is the goal of spiritual life. That is the thing. So Swami Vivekananda says, to separate ourselves utterly from matter and all belief in its reality is true knowledge. The man of knowledge or the jnani must keep ever in his mind the Om Tat Sat, that is, Om is the only real existence. This is the cornerstone of the Vedanta philosophy, the Alpha and the Omega. Brahman alone is true and all else is false. Only by telling ourselves this, until we make it a part of our very being, can we rise beyond all duality, beyond both good and evil, pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow, and know ourselves as the one eternal, unchanging, infinite, the one without a second. So this is our goal, to disassociate ourselves with matter completely. This means transcending matter in all its forms. Because what is keeping here, what is making us bound, what is keeping us bound to this body is nothing but attachment to matter. Wherever there is attachment, we can be sure that matter has crept in there somehow. So Swami Vivekananda says, wherever there is attachment, the clinging to the things of the world, you must know that it is all physical attraction between sets of particles of matter. Something that attracts two bodies nearer and nearer all the time if they cannot get near enough. So this is what is happening. We are clinging to the things of the world, we are clinging to matter. That is why our attempts at being religious, our attempts at being spiritual are not bearing fruit as they should be. And we are getting attached not to something good, mind you. Getting attached to matter is not getting attached to something good. We are getting attached to something which will not last, which is ephemeral. Matter was formed, and whatever is formed will be destroyed one day. So as Swami Vivekananda says, whatever has form must break some time or the other. There cannot be any form unless it is the result of force and matter, and all combinations must dissolve. That is the thing. So clinging to matter means clinging to something which will be destroyed one day. And because we are clinging to that, we will think that we are also being destroyed. That is the whole problem. So since we are now identified with the body, when the body becomes sick, we think we have become sick, and when the body dies, we will experience the tremendous suffering which comes along with death. So, although in reality we have not been born or we don't die, but because of this false clinging to matter, we undergo all the problems which are associated with matter when it disintegrates. The body is going towards destruction. All the diseases, etc., what we have, what are these? These are signals that the body is going towards the grave, going towards the funeral pyre. And because we are clinging to this body, we think that we are also accompanying the body to the grave. That is the problem. And if the more we think about matter, the more this attachment increases. That is the thing. So Swami Vivekananda says, the more we think of matter, the more we become matter. Whatever man desires, he gets. If he always dreams of having a body, he gets another body. When this body goes away, he wants another and goes on begetting body after body. Love matter and you become matter. You first become animals. When I see a dog gnawing a bone, I say, Lord help us. Love body until you become dogs and cats. Still degenerate until you become minerals. All body and nothing else. So this clinging to body all the time, going here, eating out there, enjoying this, enjoying that, thinking about all this day and night, is making our bondage stronger all the time. And Swamiji says, I quote, spirituality can never be attained unless all material ideas are given up. What is in the senses? The senses are all delusion. People wish to retain them in heaven even after they are dead. A pair of eyes, nose, some imagine they will have more organs than they have now. They want to see God sitting on a throne through all eternity, the material body of God. Such men's desires are for the body, for food and drink and enjoyment. This life, their life, is all for the body. This is the problem. So this is the condition of most of us. For us, religion is what? Religion is go to some temple or something on some special occasion. If they give free food, that is very good, that is a bonus. And go and offer some flowers. And with each flowers you ask God, God, give me a son, give me a daughter, give me money, etc., etc. So 100 flowers, 100 desires. And then we witness some rituals, etc. And we come home very satisfied that, oh, we have done what our duty. Our duty is finished. Now God will come at the time of death and take us to heaven, or something like that. So because this is our idea, most of us, we never think that this is not the kernel of religion. This is just the very beginning. But if we want to become truly religious, truly spiritual, first we have to realize the bondage which we are in. Our attraction to matter has put us in such a pitiable condition that itself most of us don't realize. So when the realization of bondage is not there, naturally the hankering after freedom will also be not there. So if we really want to become religious, we have to renounce all material pleasures. Because still we cling on to matter in the form of pleasures, in the form of seeking pleasures, we can never be free from matter. That is the problem. So actually what is sadhana? Spiritual practices. Sadhana is simply freeing the mind from matter. Otherwise the reality is within us all the time. The reality which is God. We don't manufacture God by our prayer and meditation, etc. We just remove what stands in between us and God. And that is this world of matter. So, what is the best way to be rid of matter? What is the best sadhana or the spiritual practice? The best sadhana, Swamiji has said that it is meditation or dhyana. So, I quote Swami Vivekananda again. The greatest help to spiritual life is meditation. In meditation, we divest ourselves of all material conditions and feel our divine nature. It is the nearest approach to spiritual life, the mind meditating. It is the one moment in our daily life that we are not at all material. The soul thinking of itself, free from all matter. This marvelous touch of the soul. The touch of the soul can paint the brightest color even in the dingiest places. It can cast a fragrance over the vilest thing. It can make the wicked divine. The less the thought of the body, the better. For it is the body that drags us down. It is attachment, identification which makes us miserable. That is the secret, to think that I am the spirit and not the body. Unquote. But if we simply say if we do simply lip service, I am the spirit, it won't help. Because in our mind, we are still attached to matter. And till we are attached to matter, we will continue to identify ourselves with matter. So our body is the tree from which so many branches have come out. Sons, daughters, possessions, friends, relatives, everything. So when we feel that attachment to our all these offsprings and all that, actually it is the source is what? The source is our attachment to our body. The so-called love which we say we feel for our children or anybody, any blood relative, if it is not based on the love of God, it is just attachment to the body, attachment to matter. So till we cling to all these things, simply saying I am spirit will not help. And meditation is far, far, far away from most of us. Just if we are made to sit still 10 minutes, we will get a big headache. We will need a Tylenol or something to remove the headache. So meditation is far, far away. So the thing is, I quote Swami Ashokananda, he says, the vast majority of mankind are not really fit to take up religious life seriously. They are still far, far off from the requisite condition of mind. They have too much body consciousness and are obsessed and bound by finite things. Even a far distant glimpse of the infinite cannot yet be for them. They want the pleasures of the body, power, earthly riches and long life, and are afraid of renunciation. Thus, most men live and die completely earthbound, without any conscious effort to break through its limitations. For them, religion can only be formal. Formal religion, waving some light, offering some flowers, and not going beyond that at all. So, for most of us, this is the condition. We are limited to this formal religion and don't have any desire to go beyond that, because going beyond that means giving up. And we don't want to give up, not at any cost. But if we really want to be Vedantins, if we really are seriously interested in spiritual life, we have to go beyond. So this germ, this desire for going beyond is fortunately there in every one of us, because the nature of the soul is freedom. And this is manifest in even this desire of being spiritual is manifest even in our worldly activities. So this has been wonderfully explained by Swami Ashokananda. I will quote him in detail. So after saying this, he says, this, however, this dark picture that human beings are in general not yet ready for taking up spiritual life seriously, behind this dark picture there is a brighter side also. So he says that this, however, is not a complete picture of even the worldly man. There is another and brighter side of the picture. What is that? This side depicts the hope and the unfolding glory of man. Man does not live for himself alone. Even the most ordinary man of the world cannot remain satisfied with loving himself alone. He also loves others, even though they may only be his own relations. He has some moral consciousness. He seeks more and more knowledge. He has caught the lure of truth. He has the sense of beauty. So all these lead human beings upward to break free from matter and realize the supreme truth. So we have to start from where we are. So what are these primary steps that have to be cultivated so that we can start our journey to transcend matter? What are these steps? So he says that, I'll just enumerate one by one. First is a strictly moral life. Second is developing an aesthetic sense. Third is love for others. Fourth is hunger for knowledge and truth. And fifth is activity. Again, we will see them in point form. I'll show them in a chart. So these things, a strictly moral life, aesthetic sense, love of beauty, love for others, hunger for knowledge and truth, and activity, these are the saving and ennobling elements in a human being's life, he says. And out of them springs true religion. So he says we have to transcend the grossness of matter and train the mind to dwell on the finer realities before we can ever hope to be truly religious. Art, morality, search for knowledge, intense activity, and charity and love help immensely in training the mind to feel and perceive finely. So these things in every religion, they have been stressed. Why? Not without any reason. Because through these steps, what do? Our mind slowly goes from the gross to the subtle, from the gross to the finer things. And as we have seen in the chart, when we saw that the evolution according to Sankhya. What is the evolution? From Prakriti, Buddhi, then Sukshma Bhutas, that is the subtle elements, then finally we come to this gross universe. That is what we have seen. So now we have to go, we are now right in the bottom of the gross universe. So our mind is enmeshed in matter there. Now we have to go above. Slowly from the gross elements to the subtle elements, one by one, until we reach the subtlest of all, which is the Atman. Atman is of course beyond gross and subtle. It is beyond matter, absolutely. But just for the sake of understanding, I am telling. So now, just let us see one by one this art, morality, search for knowledge, etc. Swami Ashokananda has dealt with them in a wonderful way. So he says, what is art? He says, art is the presentation of matter and objects of the senses clothed in the light of the supernatural. So we cannot suddenly transcend matter. Our dealings with matter in the beginning stages, we have to deal with matter in such a way that something of the divine is reflected in that matter also. So he says, we all know why we take food, wear clothes, or live in a house. Yet we are always trying to forget the ostensible purpose of these actions. For their immediate objects are gross. When we take food, food is gross. Wear clothes, clothes are gross. House is all gross matter. But we want to forget their material aspect. So we clothe them with art. For example, mere nourishing food is not enough for us. The food must have a fine form. It should have a good color. It should smell nice. And it should be served also in an artistic fashion. Where we eat, that place must be beautiful. It cannot be dirty. And our clothes, actually what is the function of clothes? The clothes just cover up the body, protect us from cold and other things. But we are not satisfied just by protecting the body. Our clothes should not only be sufficient to protect us against the ravages of weather, but they also must be beautiful. It is the same with the houses. Our houses, we could have lived in a big square box with 4 windows and a 1 door, etc., etc. But before we choose our house, we see so many things. Whether it is beautiful or not, whether it has been made in a particular shape or not, whether the painting is nice or not. So what do these all reflect? These reflect our love of beauty. And beauty is nothing but a form of the divine shining through the grossness of matter. So in this way we learn to transcend the gross thing and perceive the final reality. So when we go on in this way, in due course of time, we feel a profound dissatisfaction for the material life. But simply being an artist is not enough. Just by appreciating art, if we think that we can approach the divine, that is not enough. There should also be moral struggle. Nothing but a strong moral consciousness and aspiration after high ideals can finally lead us to spirituality. Otherwise, art also becomes just a worldly pastime. So morality gives us strength. When we again and again tell our mind, we discipline our mind. Morality is what? Disciplining our mind. telling our mind to stay away from bad things and follow only the proper course. So this disciplining the mind gives the mind strength. Through morality also we overcome the gross and rise to the finer plane. Okay. Also love, unselfish love for others equally releases us from the limitations of the gross. Love and service have been emphasized by all religions because through them we kill our little self, our self which we identify with our own bodies. So that clinging to that small self is slowly, that bonds are loosened when we do something for others. And similarly, knowledge and activity. Knowledge, the search for knowledge reveals wonders within the apparently commonplace and lead us from the visible and apparent to the world lying beyond our present conception. And finally, intense activity. Laziness has to be shunned by all means. So, intense activity first satisfies our worldly instincts, but in the long run, it also destroys our worldly instincts and gives us a taste of a higher and finer life. When we have experienced the world, then we see that the little things of the world, the little acquisitions, some pleasures, some money, some house, etc., we find that these are extremely trifling and we yearn to get bigger and more permanent things. So all these forces, morality, art, aesthetics, love for knowledge, activity, all these forces are slowly working, slowly but steadily, they are working for the upliftment of human beings. They are impelling him towards real religion. These are the primary steps. So without these primary steps, we cannot suddenly become spiritual. So the essential condition of spirituality is what? The annihilation of the lower self, the false ego and the desire for earthly things. Because if our mind is also always craving different things of the world, it will remain scattered over 1,000,000 objects of the world. And such a mind cannot go towards God. In order to make the mind one-pointed, we have to stop this scattering. And if it keeps wanting something else, it will go on in different directions. We cannot stop it. So first is give up these desires and make the mind one-pointed. But such renunciation of desire is practically impossible for most of us right at the beginning. Because the mind is absolutely gross. And gross attracts gross. That is the problem. So when we make the mind subtle by these practices, it will be attracted to subtle things. This is the thing. So art, morality, etc., these can help the mind out of its present worldly conditions. So does this mean that from now on we will stop going to temples and stop all religious activity and just follow these art, etc.? No, not at all. Because our religious activities also supplement these primary steps. The primary steps will be given a firm foundation when we also have formal religion behind that. In fact, without adherence to a religion and submission to its fundamental dictates, most of us cannot even follow these primary disciplines truly and for a long time. So unless we believe in some eternal and ultimate reality and the solidarity of life and the universe, even art, morality, etc. cannot properly flourish in our mind. Most of us cannot properly understand or benefit by art, morality, or charity unless they relate them to they relate us to the principle of divinity. So all these have to go together. When we go to a shrine, we worship before God. That also we have to do in an artistic way. But we should remember who it is we are worshipping. We are worshipping someone beyond this universe, beyond matter. We should always remember that. We should not think that we are worshipping some being who is seated above in a cloud. That is a materialistic idea of God. So that is why in all ages we find that art, morality and service, they have been existing as aspects of religion. They are not separate from formal religion. So for the benefit of the vast majority of mankind, in order that they may eventually be fit to live religion truly and seriously, it is necessary, absolutely necessary, that our life should be made more and more beautiful, aesthetic and morally exalted and full of love, service and charity. All these. So formal religions with its dogmas, myths and symbology etc. must always be there. But we should understand the purpose behind that. So both these things in the primary stages have to be cultivated together, side by side, with proper rational thinking. And of course with renunciation. Without renunciation everything is useless. If we go on seeking pleasure in matter with all our energy, all these things will be just pouring ashes into the fire. They will be worth nothing. So always discriminating, always thinking about the real goal of life. As Sri Ramakrishna says, always discriminating between the real and the unreal. The Atman is the only reality. Matter is ephemeral, it will not stay. Clinging to matter will lead us to our death. So all these have to go together. It is not that we cultivate art and all that to show others or to put our name in the newspapers. It is not that. The whole thinking has to be changed. That is the thing. So when both these go together, then slowly the mind is purified and we can take up higher spiritual disciplines slowly and slowly. So just by reading a few books or even writing books or even talking or simply hearing big things about Advaita, Vedanta and all that, they won't help us at all. Absolutely zero. Because when we cannot carry something practically in our own life, simply talking big things, non-dual meditation and all that is nonsense. So we have to start from the beginning, from where we are, because Swamiji has said 1 ounce of practice is much better than 1,000 tons of talk. This is the thing. So thinking of matter and the pleasurable or the pleasure of the senses, going after sensual pleasures, Swamiji says, this has brought us down here. Here where? I quote, to cry one moment, to rejoice the next, to be at the mercy of every breeze, slave to everything. This is shameful. And yet we call ourselves spirit or the Atman. Now go the other way, says Swami Vivekananda. What is the other way? He says, think of God. God is the spirit or the Atman. So leave matter and think of God. Let the mind not think of any physical or mental enjoyment, but of God alone. So when we do all these sincerely, we perform the initial steps sincerely with rationality and proper thinking behind us. When we really start to practice, we talk less and practice more. Then when that happens, slowly, our mind becomes trained to develop on the finer realities, the subtler realities. So as this happens, with this together, we transcend matter also. Then we don't have to make separate attempts to transcend matter. Because when the mind naturally dwells on these realities, then the gross pleasures by themselves, they slowly lose our attraction for us. For example, all the artists and all who are the great artists of the world, compared to the average human being, they are much more spiritual. And that also naturally. They may not go to a temple or anything, but just through the practice of art, their minds naturally dwell on subtle realities. So very rarely, we all read newspapers and all that, very rarely you see that we read that a great artist has committed some improper deed. We don't see that at all. It is the only uncultured people, those who are gross, absolutely gross. They commit all sorts of wrong things. Those whose mind has already climbed above that and finds joy in subtle things, automatically it transcends the gross universe. So Swami Vivekananda also has said that music is the greatest help in concentrating our minds. So when we are any art, music, painting or any sculpture, anything, when we are engaged in that, the mind naturally overcomes the gross level in which we normally dwell. So these are the initial steps, and we should try to practice them with all this rational behind us in a thinking way, so that slowly we can overcome matter and the universe completely, and our minds become subtle and fit to dwell on God and God alone. Then only we will be fit for the higher practices, higher spiritual practices. So now all these have to be combined together. Yes, we have to read Vedanta, we have to know about the nature of the soul, we have to practice the repetition of the name of God, we have to try to meditate, but along with this, we also have to practice these things. We should know where we stand. Similarly, simply reading big books of Advaita Vedanta won't make us spiritual. So these have to be combined all together and practiced sincerely. That is the thing. These are the primary steps when if we want to approach true spirituality. So let us stop here today. Uh, Before that, I will just show you the chart which I prepared here. Told you about that. Just to recapitulate, one second. So just I will share with you. So these are the points in a very brief form, that the whole universe is nothing but matter, and matter is subject to laws and is therefore limited. It has an origination, and anything which originates has to be destroyed one day. Identification with matter is the cause of all our suffering. To separate ourselves totally from matter is the aim of spiritual life. And primary steps for doing this are practicing morality, being aesthetic, having love, unselfish love for others, developing hunger for knowledge and truth, and being intensely active. So, these are the steps. So, let's stop here. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.